everybody, welcome back to Brit's Books and Beauty. My name is Brittany. If you are a brand new viewer, in this channel we discuss all things books and beauty related, doing book reviews, exploring new products to apply on our faces, and just kind of hanging out and getting to know all things related to books and beauty. So if you are interested in that kind of content, stick around. Today we're going to be doing our very first book review. So for those of you who did not get to see my very first episode, at the beginning of this year, my very good friend and her roommates started a very unique book club. And essentially they agreed to each read one book a month, and then they would have dinner at the end of the month and kind of discuss their books that they read. I was invited to join them, even though I don't live in that household. And I have to say I'm really enjoying having a little bit of pressure to read. I'm a huge fan of books, love to read, and I just never, up to this point, was not really finding enough time to dedicate to that hobby. So I am grateful to have been invited to join that little kind of unique club, and I've read some really interesting books so far this year. So check out my very first episode. I did talk about the books that I've read thus far, and for the month of June I chose The Accident Season. So here is what that looks like, and I'm going to kind of angle it in some pretty interesting ways to make sure you guys can see it. It is written by Fowley-Doyle. I did a little research on her. This is actually her debut novel. So really amazing work for a debut novel. Very, very wonderful. And I am really looking forward to reading some of her other stuff. I, again, looked a little deeper. She has 2 other novels out currently. So I do plan to purchase her other novels and maybe read them this year. Love her writing style. So I guess without further ado, let's jump into the book. Just a heads up for everyone, this is going to have spoilers. I do want to talk about the plot line a little bit. I feel like even though it may ruin some of the big wows, it's still worth reading if you are a big book reader. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the book follows 4 young individuals. Their names are Kara, Sam, Bee, and Alice. And Kara and Alice are sisters. Sam is their stepbrother, and Bee is Kara's best friend. Kara, Bee, and Sam kind of run together as a little group. Alice has her own friends, but in this novel, you kind of see that she also groups herself in with her sister. They have a very pretty close bond. And essentially the story focuses on this group of people, and they are teenagers in school. We come into the novel towards the end of what is called their accident season. And what we learn about the book essentially is that this family every year for the month of October suffer from horrible accidents that they feel normally don't happen in other times of the year. So bumps and bruises, scrapes, maybe they get more paper cuts, they run into stuff, really bizarre accidents. And it is towards the end of the season, so our characters are a little banged up by this point. And so Alice, Kara, and Sam are the members of this family who suffer from the accident season every October. So we're headed towards Halloween. So the accident season is almost over. Bee, our friend Bee, is quite a unique individual and is very spiritual, reads tarot cards, really feels like she has a good connection with the other side, so to speak. And she reads the cards for, I believe, Kara, and predicts that this is going to be a really bad accident season, which is interesting because it's almost over. So you would think that would have been predicted at the beginning. So we're headed towards the end, and B basically predicts that there's going to be a problem. In the beginning of the book, there is a character introduced named Elsie, who Kara realizes she sees in every single one of her photographs on her phone. So B makes this weird prediction about, really bad accident season, and Kara kind of has this weird thing going on anyway, because there's this girl who is in every single photo on her cell phone. And so she feels like she's being followed. And so the book starts out already with a couple different storylines happening. The accident season's going on. Elsie is introduced as this kind of weird character who is showing up everywhere. So the journey begins with the group looking for this Elsie girl. And she usually runs what's called the secrets booth. That is essentially a way for students to anonymously discuss things that are happening in their life that they don't feel like they can share with anyone else. So it's a booth that is run by Elsie on the high school campus. And at the end of the year, all of the secrets that have been written anonymously are posted essentially on a line across the school. And it's almost like this big art exhibit. It gets a big article in the newspaper every year. It's basically described or valued as like a really important way for students to get things out that they feel uncomfortable talking to anyone about, but they still get that therapeutic release of, telling their secrets. So really interesting idea right off the bat there. I thought that was a very unique idea. And so the kids go to find this Elsie girl who normally runs the booth, and they can't find her. So they start asking around. And teachers don't really, no one's really giving an answer. Oh, check with this person, check with that person. I don't know where she is. Da, da, da. So Elsie's not in school. Nobody can seem to find her. The book is kind of hard to describe because it has a very unique way of progressing from this point forward. So from this point forward, we've got a few different storylines happening simultaneously. And on top of that, part of what is being shown to us in the book is things that are internalized and described. So the best way, I think, to discuss the book is to talk about chronologically, like how things are happening in the book. If you're interested in seeing how Kara, our main character, projects her stress into her environment, and seeing all these kind of weird phenomenon, I highly recommend reading the book. But I think that would be a really lengthy discussion to go into. So I think the best way to talk about this book would be chronologically. So they're looking for Elsie. And as this is happening, they're approaching, Halloween. So they get this great idea that they're going to have a Halloween party. So as they're looking for Elsie, they want to have a Halloween party, so they're trying to figure out where to host it. And a few days go by, they still haven't seen Elsie, and so they're looking for her. And they get this great idea to get records, to get into the school records, find out where Elsie lives, and check in with her because they haven't seen her on campus, and they're concerned at this point. So they go to the address listed under Elsie's name, and they go to the house, and it is an abandoned mansion. And they're like, that's kind of weird to have as a school address. So they go into the house, they check it out. It's obviously no one lives there. And they decide that this is going to be the perfect location for their Halloween party. So they check it out, kind of get some plans together. While all this is happening, the relationship between all of the characters starts to get a little bit interesting as the story progresses. I'm obviously very much shortchanging you on the information because it is a really complex book to try to describe. But basically, as the book progresses, you start to really see the inner workings of this little group and the family itself, that's suffering from the accident season. So you kind of start to realize that Sam and Kara have a very close relationship. They're the same age. Sam has been in the family for a long time. His father married Kara and Alice's mother and then left at some point and has not been seen or heard from since. So you start to notice that Sam and Kara have a very close relationship. Alice has this older boyfriend that she kind of focuses a little bit more on. She comes and goes throughout our story. And then B, of course, is there for support. She's Kara's best friend. And as things progress through the story, you start to realize things are a little bit different in the group than you expected. During the accident season, Alice shows up with kind of some weird marks on her, so they start to worry about the boyfriend. and B starts to get a little bit weird about Alice's situation. And then you notice that Kara and Sam are growing closer and closer throughout the story. So things get a little bit interesting as we start to head into plans for the Halloween party. At the same time that you're seeing all of these relationships kind of get a little bit twisty, we're learning a little bit more about the family itself. So things that we eventually learn about the family are, of course, Sam's dad married Kara and Alice's mother. He left, has not been heard from since. Their own father died, obviously. He's not in the picture. And you start to learn a little bit about Kara and Alice's uncle, who was very, very close to their mother. So it was her brother, and he also tragically died during the accident season. So you're kind of under the impression this has been going on for a while. The family has a lot of trauma. It's the easiest way to put it. So as the little group is planning their Halloween party, there's some weird stuff happening in the woods. Kara and Sam have discovered this weird little, the woods is kind of a walking place for them. They come and go a lot. There's this bridge that they like to go to. It's kind of their secret, sacred place. But there's this thing they find in the woods. Essentially, it's almost like an altar, but like an anti-altar. So it has pictures of Elsie, and there's a trap of some sort, and a little doll of her, and things are getting weird at this point. Things are getting weird. And so they're Elsie's mixed up into some weird shit at this point, and she's missing. So we've got a missing girl, an accident season, and a Halloween party happening. Meanwhile, you've got all of these relationships spinning almost out of control because of the changing that's going through this story. We start to get to the Halloween party itself. Elsie's gone, no sign of her. At this point, Alice and her boyfriend are really having some issues, and it's evident. Everyone's a little banged up. It's the accident season, so of course there's been a few injuries. B is really, really on edge, and Sam and Kara are having some really interesting romantic issues. Obviously they're not related, so there's nothing really wrong with it, but it's certainly a little bit taboo being step-siblings and living in the same house. So they're starting to kind of form this romantic attachment to each other. They're trying to break that apart. They obviously understand that that is taboo. Not really interested in pursuing that at this point. They're trying really hard to fight it. We get to the Halloween party. It's a banger. Unfortunately, I believe the police break it up. So everyone has to boogie out. The whole group gets separated. I think B and Kara end up back at home with mom. And Sam and Alice kind of go missing. But we don't know where they are. In the morning time, when everything is kind of blown over and said and done, they're still not there. They do eventually return, no harm done, but the story continues in just kind of a weird, relationships changing kind of way. And the accident season comes to a close. And basically, after this Halloween party and some, interesting changes to the group dynamic, it turns out Alice's boyfriend was not being very nice to her, and she eventually wiggles her way out of that situation. Definitely kind of a rough one for her as such a young person going through that. B has actually formed a bit of an attachment to Alice, so they kind of develop a little bit of a romantic attachment as well. And then Kara and Sam decide that they have feelings. It's technically not wrong because they're not related, so they're going to go ahead and kind of see how that goes. While the family is kind of healing, they start to ask questions a little bit about what is happening with the accident season, and you kind of learn a little bit more about the family as the book goes on. And what you eventually learn is that, and this is kind of brought up because there, are some pretty serious injuries that occur, that mom feels like she needs to share in some of this information about the accident season, about the family dynamic itself, and then just kind of through looking internally at that family unit, the children kind of figure out their own issue, some of the issues in the family dynamic on their own. Like I said, it's a really complicated book to try to explain because so much of what's happening is internal. Mom finally gets clued in as to what's happening, like kind of how things got rolling in terms of our storyline. So Mom gets filled in. The kids are looking for this missing girl. That's how they found the house. They had the party in the house, da-da-da-da. So basically Mom hears about the big banger. And at the end of the book, everything kind of clashes together because Mom gets filled in on what's happening. So Mom in turn fills in everybody else. So by the end of the book, what you discover are a few things. Alice was a victim of sexual abuse as a child. The uncle, who was Mom's best friend, was not only tragically died during the accident season, but it is highly suspected he was murdered. And that Elsie, who is this girl that keeps appearing, in all of Kara's photographs, is actually a ghost of a child that was born to their mother before the girls. She passed away. And so it's kind of this thought that maybe Elsie has been taking care of everybody. And for 1 month out of the year, she goes away. And that's why the accident season takes place. Obviously, again, it's like this really super unique novel. And so much, and just talking about the chronological order of things doesn't really describe to you just how much information is given to you via internal dialogue and the individual conversations happening between people. So I can talk about the book all I want, but it's not really going to give this book justice in terms of just how good it was. I do highly recommend reading it. I know this was a very confusing review, mostly because this book had so many different storylines happening at once and that all kind of intertwined. And I really didn't even touch on some of the weird projections, emotionally, how things were being perceived by Kara. She definitely had some weird, semi-vision stuff happening. So this book almost had a supernatural element to it. Absolutely. It was just such an amazing novel that I really don't feel like there's a good way to do it justice. I feel like the only thing I could really do would be to talk in circles about this book because so much is happening that is really, really hard to describe. That is the best I think I can do to give you an idea of what happened in the accident season. I don't want to blow all of the secrets, so I did withhold a little bit of information. I know that was hard to follow with about 1,000 different things happening. It's hard to sum up a main storyline, but that's the best I think I can do. And again, this is the accident season. It was a pretty easy read, I would have to say. Some of my issues right now are that I actually finished it kind of early in the month of June, and I put off shooting this video. If you have any questions, you are welcome to leave comments below, or if you are seeing this video on Facebook, absolutely, you can ask me questions in the comments. I actually purchased this book at the dollar store, but I know it's available online. I will try to post an Amazon link for anybody who's interested in buying it. Thank you guys for coming to my first book review. If you're interested in following along, I know that one was really hard. I promise their future reviews will get better. That one was just really hard to explain. If you are interested in following along for next month, the next book I am going to be reading is called Even If You Lie to Me. Thank you guys so much for buckling in for that psychotic ride, and I look forward to doing more book related content. Let me know what you guys want to see. I had some thoughts about doing book movie comparisons. Let me know how you guys are feeling, if there's anything you're recommending that I read. I love to get recommendations from other people. So let me know what you guys are reading and what you're into. I would love to know. And I hope that some of you guys decide to read along with me for our book for July. So thanks for hanging out and learning about the accident season. I hope I piqued your interest enough that you might want to read it. If you are brand new to my channel, thanks for stopping by. If you're interested in seeing more book or beauty related content, please like and subscribe. And if you think that you have some people in your life that are like-minded and might appreciate the content, go ahead and share my video with your friends and family. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. I appreciate you guys checking me out and hanging out with me today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!